Just sit in the silence and allow yourself to hear who God says you are. And believe that whatever you ask for, whatever you pray for, God has already answered. God has already given you a solution.
It is another Friday. Welcome to Health Space Podcast. This is Lubabalo speaking. Today I'm joined again by Miss Tash the Stylist. We continue with affirmations. We could not cover the topic in its entirety last time because there's just so much that we had to discuss. Just laying the foundation on affirmations. And these are things that apply to our lives, whether we believe or not. It's not a matter of believing, but it's just a matter of being aware. It's like force of gravity. It's there, whether you believe it or not. When you jump off the building, you're going down. So it's one of those laws of life that are just there. And we either embrace that or we fall because we can't really fight that. And surfers normally say, you don't fight the wave, you surf the wave. You don't fight wind, you adjust your sails. So it is life that we are given as a gift, and somehow we have to find our ways around life. And I think affirmations is just one of those hidden tools that we most of the time we're not aware of. And we find ourselves wondering and, asking ourselves so many questions why things work a certain way. But bottom line is, if you jump off the building, force of gravity is taking you down. So yeah, welcome, Tash. How are you?
Thank you very much, Luba. I am well, thank you. How are you?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was a bit down, coming down with flu, but I think I've managed to put things together and, fight the symptoms. So I'm feeling good.
Oh,
And
that.
yeah, glad to
Mm.
have you.
Thank you, thank you, and it's good to hear that you're getting better.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, yes, we're talking affirmations. And as I was saying, that just giving a background on affirmations. And like I said, that is just one of the tools that we're not often aware of. And you shared, I think your business has some cards that I don't know what you call them. Is it affirmation cards or but so there's some package that has that. And how do you go about teaching your clients about affirmations? Like, what are affirmations and how do they work? And how do you use this tool? And have you seen any advantage? Yeah, just take us through.
Okay, great. So one of the things I think it was in the conversation that we had last week where I was just really getting into what affirmations are, and to simplify it is it's the things that we say to ourselves. So whether they are positive or negative, we are a product of our thoughts. And so for me, affirmations became a part of my life in terms of what is it that, how do I see myself? Who is Natasha? How do I speak to myself? And so I had to have an understanding of that. And for me, it comes from reading the Bible. And when God said to Moses, as he was sending him, Moses asked and said, who should I say sent me? And God said to him, I am that I am sent me. It has sent you. And for me, I had to look at that and I said, okay, God, so if you say you've created us in your image and likeness, and you say this is who we are, and you've given us the same power, so the same power that you have said about yourself is in me. So whatever I say I am becomes that, because that is the creative power that is within me. And so I had to start looking at affirmations as a creative part of my being. What am I creating about my life by what I am saying, seeing myself, and speaking over myself? So if I say I am poor, then that means that is what I'm creating. And so, like you said, the laws of gravity, whether we like it or not, we understand it or we don't understand it. I don't have to be a scientist to know that if I get on top of a roof and I jump, I am going to fall. It,
Mm,
it's just there. And so it is the same thing with affirmations. Some people will say, oh no, it's spiritual things that we don't understand. It's the laws that were set before time, before us. We can choose to ignore them, but they still have an impact on our lives. And so I had to make a choice and say, what am I speaking over myself? And so if
mm,
I that I am in the negative, it means that whether I like it or not, the creative power that is within, that resides in me, is going to acknowledge that. And that is what I'm going to see around me. And so the more I speak that, the more, or the more I keep confessing that, the more my environment becomes that. And so I continue being in that space because that is what I'm creating. And so it creates a lot of frustration for many of us because we had no understanding that whatever we are saying and speaking over our lives, we are becoming a product of that. And I remember, Lucky Dube's song that says the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poor. At that time, it didn't make sense because I'm like, what is this guy talking about? But
mm,
now I look at life, I'm like, the rich people keep talking about their wealth, where they're going, and the things that they're doing. Their thoughts are towards what they've created.
mm,
Poor keep confessing what they don't have. So the environment has to adjust to what you are seeing, what you are speaking, and what you are putting out there. And
mm,
that is the power of affirmations. So I always encourage my clients to say, whatever you wake up thinking, spend your day meditating on thinking in your silent moments. And it doesn't have to be verbal. You are a product of your thoughts. So whatever it is that is feeling your thoughts is what you are becoming and what you are creating around you. So if you are surrounded by lack, if you're surrounded by frustration, it means you are just continuously thinking that people don't do good towards me. And so people will have to not do good towards you because that is what you have put out there. We are spiritual beings, we are energy beings. And so whatever we send out is what we receive back.
sure. Yeah, ne? So how does one apply this? Let's do it in two ways.
Okay.
Um, we service doctors, and one has just been newly qualified, and they thinking of going private or becoming a medical officer at a government hospital, but their passion is on the private side. But one is thinking the hustle of finding patients, building files, and what if I fail? We tend to plan a lot for failure, and then you're surprised when it happens. We cannot have a guest room and not expect a guest. You know,
Yes.
so, I'll start with that. So, talking to a newly qualified doctor, and given that we also have unemployed doctors in South Africa, almost 1,800, though we have shortage, funny enough. And so, how do you talk to that doctor? How would you advise them to use affirmations?
Okay.
And is this something that's measurable that you can actually see if it's working or not? And like you said, that when we're using an example of force of gravity, it's easy to test. You just jump off the roof, then you know you're going down. So can you test affirmations? And if so, how? And how do you apply this?
Okay. So I always say, unfortunately, the greatest killer of living an abundant life is fear. And you talk about a doctor who's just qualified and is thinking, do I go private or do I go to the public institution? If I do go private, how do I create the clientele that I need? And it comes down to, who do you see yourself as? Do you believe that you are capable to create the kind of private medical space that can cater to the clientele and the patients that you want to see if you want to specialize? But because we are already operating and coming from a space of fear, you're not even going to attract the patients that you want to treat, because you've already put it out there that I can't.
Mm.
And so
And
they
sorry, Tash, just to jump in there, like I just got a notification now, and when we started, I made sure that I turn off all the notifications, and I was like, I can't find the iMessage notification on my MacBook, so I couldn't turn that off. And I was like, "Ish, I hope I don't have any iMessage coming in," and boom, it just came. So law of
because
attraction, and
yeah,
yeah.
what you put out there is what you attract. So
Mm,
if you already tell yourself that I can't do it, you've already told the environment that no, this is not for us. So we are going to go private sector. We are going to go in the public sector. And even sometimes with that, if you doubt that you will even get the job, you're saying already that, there's a shortage of doctors, but there's so much going on in the medical space. And whatever it is that you are thinking about yourself. And the biggest challenge is we look at ourselves and we judge ourselves according to what everyone else is going through.
mm,
And I always say, at the end of the day, you are an individual and you have the power
mm,
to create what you want. The economy might be going in one direction, but you could find that there are people who are still flourishing in that same environment and they're succeeding in that same environment. A good example, let's take COVID. There are people who got so scared of COVID that they died just from that fear. They did not catch
mm,
COVID, or if they did, they attracted it to themselves. There are those that genuinely just caught the disease and survived because they told themselves, this thing will not kill me. It's the power of the mind.
mm,
There are people who started businesses that are successful today in an environment where everyone was closed, most people were closing down during COVID.
mm,
And they say to themselves, this is my opportunity to break away from the fear and to jump in and do something that I've said I'm not going to do. So that is
wow.
the power of affirmation. Affirmations stir up something inside of you that breaks away fear. So you asked about how do you measure this? You measure it by who you are becoming. The more positive you speak over yourself, there is something that happens within you
Mm,
that changes how you see things.
wow.
So where you were afraid to that step and start that business or get that loan, you actually start believing, I'm capable of actually starting this business and it's going to become successful.
Mm,
I'll give you an example, a personal example. There was a time when I had lost my confidence and I was just I wasn't feeling so beautiful. Like I had gained weight and I was just in that space where I was lacking self-confidence. And there's a Shona saying that says, Icho, it's just an expression of describing something nice. Like, you just validating it. And
yeah.
things I started doing whenever I would look at myself in the mirror, I'll just go, Icho. And
Mm,
it sounded funny when I would do it and I would laugh at myself. And then I'll carry on with my day. And then I dress up again, I look at myself in the mirror, I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it. And I realized the more I did that, the more I would laugh at myself. But one, it's invoking laughter in my life. So it's invoking feelings of joy,
mm,
invoking
wow.
feelings of confidence.
Wow. You
It
know,
happens not once.
what you're saying now, something comes to mind. In swimming, they normally say, don't panic when
Mhm.
you drown, because the more you panic, like the harder it becomes to actually save you.
Yes.
So it's now trying to take that same lesson and we put it in life. We realize that the more you trying, like pushing so hard to make ends meet, the more like tougher it becomes. And you compare yourself to your mates, to your friends, and it's like, how come I seem to be working harder than my friends, but somehow my fruits are less than theirs? Not that you have to compare your fruits to theirs, but we are human beings. We always look at,
Yeah.
the people around us. And how do you put that in, like fit it in like what we're discussing now? Are there any lessons or are there any similarities to that?
Yeah, so actually, it actually brings up the point that I was going to close with in the Icho story. So I began doing that over and over, and I just started feeling different about myself. There was a spring in my step, and it rebuilt my confidence. But not only did it rebuild my own confidence, the power of becoming, we actually don't realize how it flows even out of us to other people. So
Mm,
instead of comparing myself, I became a light that other people had permission to shine through. And so whenever they would see me post something on my status, they would comment Icho. But not only would they just comment Icho, they started speaking that over themselves. And I remember having a conversation with one lady. She's an island and she was just feeling down. And I was laughing with her. I'm like, on my days when I'm feeling like I'm not, in my greatest space, I just dress up, go in the mirror and go eat yo. And, I just laugh at myself. She says
yeah.
after a couple of days later, she did the same thing and she found herself laughing and feeling different. So instead of getting into spaces of comparing ourselves, we become a light that shines for others to also not compare themselves against us, but they step into their own space of becoming and rebuilding and being affirmed that I'm doing great, because they have a mirror that they can look at and say, there is an example for me to shine, and I'm going to sit in that radiance and I'm going to be part of that, because we feed off each other. So affirmations are beautiful in such that when you become and you start radiating and shining, you're not only doing for yourself, but you become a light for other people to actually find themselves in that space and become and start wanting to know, what is it that you've done that's different, that's making you be this person.
Wow. Sure. Wow, what a mouthful. Like as you talk, I'm thinking of practical examples. And I also want to put it back again to a young doctor that has just finished their ComServe and they would want to go private. And
Mm-hmm.
then I thought of one example. I don't know where I had this. A couple was praying for a child, but they were staying in a bachelor flat. They were driving a two-seater car,
Yes.
and somehow we have a way of canceling, our requests or our desires. We do affirmations and stuff, but somehow we also cancel those, because how do you, like, we don't create a room to receive. Like I'm
Yeah.
saying that there's no space for what you're praying for, but you have these affirmations, you're pushing, you're working hard, but somehow you're canceling all that by not having that space to receive. So it goes back to the belief that, I normally say prayer is applied faith,
Yes.
that you don't just dream that I want to have this, but you walk as if you have that. You behave as if you're already in that zone. For example, someone praying for rain, they would go there to the mountain with an umbrella. That's that, already that's a prayer done. They don't even have to say anything, because that action, that step towards faith, that action of faith already tells the story that they believe it is going to rain, versus someone going there in shorts and like, okay, so are you going to pray for a rain, but it doesn't look like you're ready for it. So
Yeah.
how do we make sure that we don't put barriers to our affirmations?
Oh, that's a whole topic on its own. Posturing yourself to receive. That's a whole topic, because I think that's where many of us get stuck
Mm,
in. actually believing that, okay, I've spoken these words. I have said, I have said that this is what I'm believing for. This is who I am. This is who I want to become. But how do you get into that space? And many of us don't realize that, don't know how to do that, because we think that just because I've said it, it's going to automatically happen. But I always say you have to. It's almost, there's a saying that dress for where you are going. It's the
Mm,
same thing about any affirmation. If it's a job that, if it's a young doctor who is wanting to open a private
practice. Mm,
practice, what are they doing? Have they started looking at the rentals of the
mm,
private practice? What have they started decorating in your mind? Okay, this is how I want, because you can, when you start picturing and seeing yourself in that,
mm.
it is seeing yourself in that space that will actually align you and center you into getting that space, because
Wow.
you've already assumed the position of having received it.
Mm,
So it's now just a matter of the right timing for that to manifest and come to pass.
mm.
And it always does when you posture yourself.
Sometimes one looks at their bank account and they're like, I'm just daydreaming here. Yes, I have all these great ideas, but I need at least 1 million to implement these ideas, 1 million rand to implement these ideas. So what do you say about the how part? Because often we dream big and it's all nice until you're like, okay, so how do I do this? Where am I gonna get this? So often stress about the how part. So what's your take there?
I think if we are to look at people who've made it in life and they start telling us their stories, the one common story is always, I didn't have it,
Mm,
but I believed.
mm,
Opportunities find people who are ready to step into them and walk into them, not people who are calculating and saying, my bank account, because our bank accounts will never be enough to to actually sponsor the greatness that is within us, because the greatness within us is not at monetary value. If we
mm,
begin to understand that it is not at monetary value that I am becoming who I'm supposed to be. So if I'm called to be a speaker, or if I'm called to be the greatest doctor, it is not the money that will actually make me the doctor that I'm supposed to be. It is what is deposited within me that
mm.
makes me the great doctor.
Yeah.
So it's not the surgery that I own that is going to operate a patient or treat a patient, but it is inside gifting that I possess, that when I talk to a patient, I'm able to see beyond just what they need. I know exactly what medication they will require and need, and the right assistance or sending them to this doctor, because there is, because we're spirit beings, there's that
Right. Mm,
yes, that allows me to just operate. So the moment I then bring monetary value into it, I'm already putting myself away from the gift that I possess. So it is your gift that is going to make room for you, but you have to allow that gift to come out and be, become that version, by knowing that I am capable of giving my patients the right treatment. It doesn't matter where I am. I am that gift. I am that gifted. So
mm,
when you step aside from the fear of how am I going to give that service, and say the right environment is going to find me, because I've put myself out to say I am the best doctor for my clientele,
mm. Wow.
then everything begins. You'll find someone will say, oh, we're looking for somebody to share space with. Do you want to come? And you're like, and
Mm,
then this is where you hear people saying, I don't even know how it happened. Why? You attracted what you needed. But oftentimes we are chasing what we need, whereas if we just open ourselves up and say, let the right opportunities find me, it's another affirmation. You speak. Let right doors open for me. Let right opportunities open up for me. Let me find myself in the right place at the right time. It almost feels like this person is lucky. No, they think that way. They speak that over themselves and they become.
Sure. Wow. Yeah, I think these practical lessons that we need to constantly visit and constantly engage in this, because at times when you're alone, you get to a point where you don't even know what to do. And I do believe there's even a reason why we're having this topic today, that you may find it's just dedicated to just one person, over 7 billion people in the world. But somehow the universe, God, has a way of just zooming in just on you as like an info. And you find that we took these 30 minutes just to dedicate this session just for you, and to make sure that you are empowered, you are rejuvenated, and you dust yourself, you get back to your purpose. And I hope it really hits where it's supposed to, and it pushes that person, and that maybe we can get some reviews later on that actually indeed this session was talking to me. This is my story. This is where I was. This is where I am today. And I do pray for that. And yeah, it's been wow. Our time, it always flies, and we have so much to share. But unfortunately, because of time, yeah, we will have to cut it here. But I do think in our next session, before we wrap up on affirmations, we'll just, nicely wrap up in like giving practical lessons, and maybe we can have a few guests that maybe will take us through their journeys as well around affirmations, and then we can move to another episode. But I really appreciate you. You are a blessing to many of us, and I do believe together we stand.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Luba. And thank you once again for this opportunity to be back here. It is awesome. And I pray, and my prayer for everyone who's listening is to just remember who they are, speak life over yourself, and believe that you are the version that God has created you to be. And there is so much power and greatness within you. Just sit in the silence and allow yourself to hear who God says you are. And believe that whatever you ask for, whatever you pray for, God has already answered. God has already given you a solution. Just believe in it and start walking in that power. Thank you very much.